We're going to look at it. So foul there on Indiana, on hole there. But then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact technical.
It's a little surprising to see so many of these happen in one game because...
Oh, and I don't like the way Lexie held.
Indiana's season just hit another nerve. A short bench walked into Minneapolis and met a night that felt stacked from the opening tip. Was this simply bad luck, or did something bigger tilt the floor? We'll break down the injuries, the pivotal elbow to Lexie Hull, the whistle that sparked outrage, and why a single practice glimpse of Caitlin Clark changed the temperature of the room. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next breakdown. Now let's trace how a battered team still kept the fight alive.
The referees delivered the biggest gut punch of the night. Lexie Hull takes an elbow to the face from Kayla McBride, and they call the foul on Hull. Caitlin Clark is furious. How does this keep happening? If you thought the injury crisis was bad, wait until you hear how officiating is stacking the deck against this team's playoff fight.
Walk into Minneapolis without half a roster, and the game tilts before the ball goes up. Indiana arrived missing pillars and glue pieces alike, minutes already spent, and roles no one planned to shoulder. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Khloe Bibby, Sydney Colson, and Aari McDonald were out, cutting the backcourt and wings to the bone. Odyssey Sims still suited up, courage outrunning comfort, just to buy the Fever a chance. Against the rugged Lynx team, a thin bench changes physics. Every drive taxes lungs, every closeout burns legs. Timeouts feel like oxygen tanks. Players glance left for help and find empty chairs. The opening minutes already looked like the third quarter of a back-to-back, and the margin for error shrank to a thread. When a contender faces a roster this depleted, contact escalates. Execution must be perfect, and luck matters more than tactics. That was the arena Indiana stepped into, a night where survival would be the victory condition.
Every time a game happens in the WNBA, somebody's getting abused, somebody getting beaten, somebody is getting hurt, man. Somebody is getting hurt every game in the WNBA, and they just fail to realize this, fail to have any protocols on stopping the nonsense, man. My goodness.
The injuries were not a headline. They were the plot. Clark's groin kept her out for weeks. Cunningham's season ended with an MCL tear. Bibby's knee flared. Colson's ACL was gone. McDonald's foot fracture shut her down. That is a backcourt and a wing rotation erased in 1 month. When depth disappears, coaches stop choosing matchups and start rationing oxygen. Players hired to spell starters suddenly become the plan. Lineups lose rhythm, then spacing, then trust. Possessions shrink as the ball finds hands still learning reads. A simple switch traps the dribble because the usual release valve is in street clothes. By tip, Indiana was juggling more absences than options, and each tweak created another leak to seal. This was not a rough week. It was a structural crisis that rewired how they could even attempt to compete against a playoff opponent. Rotations that once felt rehearsed became auditions. Newcomers guessing time in, while veterans saved bursts for crunch time.
The Indiana Fever's injury bug is getting into spooky territory. It seems like there's a new player every single day that's getting injured. Right now, they have Caitlin Clark out, not sure if she will be returning this season. Sid Colson out with a season-ending ACL tear. Aari McDonald out with a season-ending fracture in her foot. Sophie Cunningham out with a season-ending MCL tear. And then just today, before the game, they announced that Khloe Bibby would be out with a knee injury, and basically they just said it's soreness and they're just playing it safe.
Lexie Hull's week explained the new reality. 2 nights earlier, she logged a career high in minutes and answered with 23 points because necessity shouted louder than design. After that game, she said what shorthanded teams always say, you just have to do a little more. Kelsey Mitchell nodded from her own heavy share. There was no hiding, only minutes to absorb. Roles expanded by force, not choice, and confidence had to coexist with fatigue. Meanwhile, the front office kept patching. Odyssey Sims, Shea Petty, and later Aerial Powers were asked to step in and step up with almost no practice time. The plan was brutal in its simplicity. Keep the spacing, play fast enough to find advantages, survive the dead legs. That is how a roster becomes a test of will, with each starter carrying 2 jobs and bench players learning on the fly. Hull joked about stealing breath during timeouts. But rest would be scarce and mistakes punished twice, on the floor and on the clock.
Lexie, did you come into tonight kind of expecting to play darn near the whole game just with the injury situation and then the personnel available?
Damn, you played 37 minutes.
I mean, you played a lot too, Kels. What did you play? 35. I mean, yeah, we're down people, so gotta suck it up, play a little tired a few minutes, and take in those timeouts as best we can. But yeah, I mean, we're down people, so everyone's got to do a little more.
Hardship sign-ins change the sport inside the sport. You shrink the playbook to what newcomers already do well and hope timing holds. Sims was not close to full speed yet, still had to steady the handle and organize sets. Petty arrived and was told to score right now. No runway, just jump. Powers, a later addition, grabbed rotation minutes, learning calls as she checked in. Stephanie White framed it plainly after practice. Spacing creates options. And decisions must be on time and on target. That is the polite version of reality. The raw version is that chemistry usually takes weeks, and Indiana needed it in one afternoon. On film, you saw a missed flare read, a skip thrown to where a teammate would normally drift, a cut mistimed by half a step. Small errors alone, but together they choke rhythm and stress defense, because tags and switches live on trust built through reps. With 3 new faces, Indiana was building that trust mid-game against a top opponent.
We've had 3 players in the last I don't know how many days, and 2 of those players are point guards, so not really. But you know, at the same time, our ability to make plays out of what we have, right? I think a lot of our spacing allows players to do what they do best, creates opportunities for them to be successful, and then it's just making the right reads and finding the right pass, you know, on time, on target. And some of that is with experience with your teammates, and some of that is instinct. And so we are trying to do as much as we can to put players in position to use those instincts.
Kelsey Mitchell refused to blink. 26 points, constant pressure, same pace whether trapped or funneled. She kept Indiana within reach even as possessions felt stitched together. Around her, Aaliyah Boston wrestled on the glass and protected the paint like an anchor in rough water. Screens landed heavier. Drives ended in bodies. The Fever were not outplayed. They were outnumbered, and with fewer bodies, the scoreboard magnifies every swing. Miss a box out, it becomes 3 points and tired legs. Turn it over, it becomes a run and a timeout burned to preserve breath. Mitchell's handle stayed clean through pressure, and when the lane crowded, she pivoted to pull-ups. Boston's positioning stole second chances and erased layups. Even tired, the fundamentals held. Box outs, 2 hands, outlets. It felt like a rope bridge in wind, swaying yet unbroken. Footwork measured, decisions simple. Survive each trip, keep the game breathing.
At this rate, the Fever are going to end the season with a completely different team than what they started the season with. And even the players that they're bringing in on hardship or that they're signing midway through the season, they're now going down with injuries. The season from hell would be an understatement on this team right now.
The flashpoint arrived fast. Kayla McBride secured a rebound with Lexie Hull tight to her hip. McBride swung through to clear space, and Hull caught a sharp elbow square to the face. She dropped, clutching her jaw. The kind of contact fans recognize instantly. The kind replay makes plain. Everyone waited for the obvious sanction. Instead, the whistle cut the other way. Hull was charged. Shock rippled through the building. Review time promised clarity and gave compromise. Officials upgraded the moment without assigning full blame, as if acknowledging harm while avoiding consequence. For a shorthanded team living on effort, that decision stung twice. Points on the board and trust off the floor. Broadcast angles replayed the swing and the head snap. Commentary boxes showed disbelief as the temperature rose by the frame. Indiana expected contact. That moment felt different. A rules debate laid over a stretched roster, and it lingered over the rest of the game.
Do that one again. Kayla McBride goes up, grabs the board, and she wants to get free because Hull has her kind of wrapped, and boy, that's a hard swing. They're going to review it.
And Hull is checking her jaw.
Made the situation worse. After looking at the slow motion, the officials upgraded the foul slightly, but stopped short of holding McBride fully responsible. It was as if they acknowledged something wrong happened, yet still refused to give accountability where it clearly belonged. Hull had visible contact to the face, went to the ground in obvious pain, and Indiana was the team punished in the exchange. How do you justify that? Fans and analysts alike expected a review to clear things up, but the replay process only—
After that sequence, frustration spilled across timelines. Fever fans asked how many hits must land before protection matches intent. Analysts argued the swing met standards for harsher sanction. Others insisted Hull's hand placement started the mess. Intent is a ghost word in this sport. Yet the optics were brutal. Face contact, player down, penalty on the one who fell. When a short team absorbs contact all week and gets a short whistle, trust erodes. The league markets toughness, but toughness without guardrails invites chaos. Players should not feel comfortable turning space clears into head contact. That's where officiating must draw brighter lines, not to soften the game, but to keep skill in charge. If calls tilt one way, strategy tilts with them, and a contest becomes a grievance file. Indiana's frustration was not only about that play. It was about pattern. Prior shoves and body blows that rarely drew equal whistles, now converging on a pivotal night.
Boom! Right there. Oh my goodness. Boom! Right in the face, man. Right in the face. Now, like I stated, I get it. You might be mad that Lexie put her hand on your forehead. But fam, there is no reason for you to be throwing elbows to somebody's face like that. Come on, man. Throwing elbows to the face.
Across social media, Fever fans erupted with frustration. Was this a one-off mistake? Or is it now a pattern of Indiana being treated differently by referees?
Even with the calls storming over them, Indiana fought. Mitchell kept knifing to the rim. Hetty came off the bench and dropped 16 like she had been there all year, a clean release in noise. Aaliyah Boston, 8th space, contested, rebounded, reset. Aerial powers, hunted angles, and earned second chances. The box score shows points. The film shows resolve, hands on the floor, faces set, a bench roaring for stops. This was not romance. It was survival theater. They traded runs with a contender using grit and repetition, keeping the contest alive into the closing minutes. Petty's threes acted like pressure valves. Boston's verticality turned layups into jumpers. Powers' putbacks restored belief. Add enough of those moments and a Finn team buys time, one possession at a time, long enough to matter at the horn. That is the plan when talent is missing. Win the math at the edges. Extra rebounds, cleaner trips, fewer empty possessions, and force a favorite to solve you late.
This was intentional. Now, if it wasn't intentional, okay, give it a flagrant one. I understand it. She wasn't trying to do it. Cool. But this was intentional. All right? She had malice on the heart with this one. Bad intentions. Okay? She was trying to wreck some stuff up there doing this one. Hey, let's just keep it a grand, man. Let's just keep it a grand. Kayla McBride was trying to knock Lexie right on her booty cheeks, but she succeeded at, fam. Knocked her clean out. Look at this.
This wasn't just a missed call. It symbolized something larger. To Indiana, it looked like confirmation that the system itself was tilted. That officiating bias was more than an accident. It was a barrier they had to play against every night. And yet, instead of giving in to the injustice, the shorthanded Fever dug in and kept fighting, leaning on unlikely heroes to keep the game alive.
The standings were a cliff. At 19 and 18, Indiana clung to 8th with 7 games to settle everything. Next came Seattle, Golden State, Chicago, LA. No soft landings, no cushion. Each loss would be a door closing. The mental tax of playoff stakes while shorthanded is real. Fatigue multiplies when every whistle feels like a verdict and every empty trip looks fatal. Fans felt it, posting possession clips and arguing intent in slow motion. Players felt it, in shoulders held tense after timeouts and in huddles where words got shorter. In that pressure, small habits become lifelines. Early box outs, 2-foot finishes, strong side cuts on time. You cannot choose the schedule. You can choose details, and thin margins survive only when details do. The next week would decide whether Indiana held its spot or watched it slip. That reality tightens decisions and forces disciplined aggression. Every minute becomes a wager on energy now versus the final 5.
This team needs Caitlin Clark to come back in the worst way. Not only if they want to save this, if they want to even play in mid to late September. This isn't a playoff team, what we're watching right now. This isn't a playoff team. This is a Kelsey Mitchell, please save us team. Kelsey Mitchell, we need 40 and 10. 40 points, 10 assists from you every night to be in the playoffs. We need a Herculean effort in the second half. We need Lexie Hull catching fire late in the fourth quarter and in overtime for this team to continue to stay in the playoffs.
Caitlin Clark walked back into view at shoot-around, not cleared, not in full practice, but on the court, moving, passing, working beside teammates again. The timeline stayed cautious, yet Stephanie White had said the hope was a return before the regular season ended. For a team starving for organization, that glimpse felt like water. Clark is more than points. She orders the floor, pulls defenders a half step early, and opens windows others cannot. With Clark, Boston finds easier seals and pocket feeds. Mitchell turns closeouts into paint touches, and role players shift from rushed creation to clean catch and shoot. Hope is not a strategy, but in a season this bruised, it acts like fuel, sharpening film sessions and letting coaches dust off sets built for her gravity. Even a few minutes of light reps told a tired locker room, plan for normal basketball soon, and hold the rope until the green light. That subtle shift from goping to preparing is how seasons turn.
We got our best indication yet that Caitlin Clark is on her way back toward a return for the Indiana Fever. That's because she was seen participating in shoot-around before the Minnesota Lynx game. Now, that doesn't mean she's playing. She's still out for that game, and she hasn't returned to full practice yet, but she is back on the court with her teammates. This coming on the heels of Stephanie White saying she hopes that Clark would return to the lineup before the regular season is out, and that when you see her participating in practice, you will know she's on the way back.
Why does her return change the math so much? Start with tempo. Clark pushes pace without hurrying, forcing defenses to declare early. That creates drag screens and slip chances Boston can cash. It also pulls a second defender half a step toward the ball, the space Mitchell needs to turn a closeout into paint touches. Our gravity reduces late block chaos, so hardship additions move from survival shots to clean catch and shoot. Add the intangible, calm. When possessions feel sped up, she slows the room, clarifies reads, and restores purpose to spacing. After timeouts, a single action can bait a switch and free Boston on the block, or spring Mitchell off a pin down. Inbound sets regain bite because defenders must choose between face guarding her or protecting rim. Indiana gets to dictate again. None of this guarantees wins, but it restores a blueprint. With clearer roles and spacing, effort scales, mistakes shrink, and late game execution becomes a plan, not a scramble.
You know, so you see Caitlin Clark, this video captured by Khloe Peterson at shoot-around. You can see Caitlin doing some work right there, just, you know, warm-up work, back and forth on the court, but nonetheless on a basketball court. It's been a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark on a basketball court. Certainly a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark play basketball. Then there was a little bit more footage here, and you see Caitlin involved on the floor yet again, even handling the ball, working with her teammates. I mean, that's an important sign there to see her working.
Yet one player cannot fight two battles alone. The Fever are contesting opponents and perception, bodies and whistles. Health returns in steps, and reputations with officials shift slower than fans want. What Indiana controls is habits. Stronger starts to avoid chase mode, smarter rebounding angles to end extra tries, cleaner spacing to reduce traffic calls, value the ball to keep the defense set. Stack those choices and the noise loses volume. What remains is the identity they showed in Minnesota, stubborn and connected. If Clark brings order and the roster stays upright, Indiana owns a lane back to its best self. If not, the fight still matters. Resilience compounds through a season, teaching late clock poise and hardening trust, and then it decides games you used to lose. The wild card is timing, whether health and whistle luck align in the final weeks. If they do, the groundwork holds and the Fever can surge. If they do not, the lessons bank for the next climb. So where does this go? Indiana is juggling bodies, belief, and a whistle that keeps inviting debate. Clark's return promises order, but the margin is razor thin, and the next week will write the headline. If you want more breakdowns like this, smash subscribe, hit the bell, and tell us in the comments whether you think officiating is tilting the floor or the Fever can steady it on their own.